perform live. Good morning. Happy quad witching day to everybody here at Quasar Markets Live. I'm with the main man himself, Stephen Big Beat Orr. How are we doing today, Steve?
Spooky, spooky, spooky. I think when you talk about quad witching all the time, right? What does that really mean? It means that $5 trillion worth of options are coming off today. Now, a lot of people don't really realize this. What it means the last few months, majority of, well, used to say the majority of options were based on hedging and possibly looking for the future. We're now zero DTEs are the majority of the options now market. But that's when all of these options either expire or they roll over or they are exercised. Meaning when they expire, meaning that they go worthless, whether they roll over, meaning that they just buy at a different date, or if it means that they exercise it, meaning they buy the actual underlying stock, whatever the company is that what the options are, or ETF. And quad witching means that 4 months worth of it, $5 trillion. Let me put that in perspective. The stock market alone is worth about 30 trillion. So 1/6 of the market comes
Yeah.
off in one day. That's just nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. And as Steve was saying, what you have is you have weeklies ending, you have monthlies ending, you have quarterlies ending. You have all these things sort of hitting and dailies. So you get the quad witching there. Usually a pretty volatile day, but as we've spoken about a lot here, since the advent of more and more daily options, and especially when you get to SPY, QQQ, some of those, it's a little bit not as crazy as it used to be, but it's still a big deal because it's the huge institutions, like you said, that are hedging, that were hedging, that might pull hedges off, that might roll, and all of that. So be interesting to see based on. Otherwise, I think we would have had a kind of. There's no economic data today. The Fed's talk comes today though, so you will see all them lined up. I've seen there's a long list of them speaking today. So we'll see there. We do know SPY hit an all-time high yesterday, 572.88. Has come back down a little bit here. Pre-market's got us down a little bit. I did see Japan, Hong Kong. They were up about 1%, but the stocks 600, which represents Europe, was down. What are you looking for today, Steve? You've been nailing it lately on this general direction of the day. What are you thinking?
It's exactly what I've been saying over the last few weeks. Dow theory. Dow theory is the most important thing right now. And we saw that yesterday with the earnings in FedEx. And we also saw that with the push to the downside here as FedEx has said that things aren't looking so rosy out there. We've been saying that. And look, the Fed could have cut by a quarter point, 25 bips, but they didn't. They cut by 50 because they saw something that we've been seeing, the cracks in the economy, the cracks in the armor out there. And we know that. Look, and because of that, we're seeing FedEx now down about almost 13% here in the early
Yeah.
trade. And they told you, for me, it wasn't just about the earnings not doing so well. It was about what the future holds for FedEx, and they said flat out that there are some issues here, some problems they see in the future. Look, 10 out of the last 12 times that the Fed cuts rates like the way they just did, 10 out of 12, we have an official recession. I've been saying the big bad R word for a while. I've been right about it. And now here we are. And I'm feeling that way. But, when you see the S&P at all-time highs yesterday and you see recession being talked about, there's a huge disconnect between Main Street and Wall Street. So, uh, and look, I think you mentioned it quite nicely yesterday. You said your mother-in-law was sitting in some CDs and money markets and was trying to figure out what to do with that money. Look, I think people just don't know what to do right now, and they're very nervous. And there's an election coming up. You're seeing the geopolitical we talked about and it got even worse yesterday. I saw where Hezbollah has now attacked Israel in the northern area. I'm seeing now where Russia is rearming drones. I can see Ukraine is upping their armament. This thing is getting nuts almost daily now. The geopolitical, and people are getting nervous about it as well as the election. And so, because of all these factors, People just don't know what to do with their money. They don't know what to sit on it, put it in the mattress, or light it up and smoke. I don't know. They're not
Well, I
going
can
to.
tell you the initial reaction was to run to not walk, but run to their computer screens and put in trades because we saw $33.8 billion added in the U.S. to stocks here over the last week. Third largest week in since COVID. During COVID,
Yep.
we saw huge numbers, huge inflows as stimulus checks came out. So it's a little bit tough to judge from there, but we're seeing that. Another thing that was interesting to me in reading about it is we're seeing from the U.S. inflows into developing nations, emerging markets at a pace that we haven't seen in the last 4 years. So since before COVID. Does that surprise you at all? I mean, I
No.
know it doesn't because you and Michael talked about this. Michael Litt. For those that didn't do it, it's up on our YouTube page. Please take a look at that interview. Great interview Steve had with Michael Litt, looking at global strategic investing. And he pointed out how, he had pointed out to you in November that value in emerging markets was the way to look. It's been sort of playing out, and now he says it's going to continue. So it was interesting to see that play out in front of me there. I got another one for you, though. Did you have on your bingo card for 2024 Three Mile Island reopening?
I like my 3 Mile Island hot wings. I like my 3 Mile Island burgers because that means that they're really, really hot. I am super excited to see 3 Mile Island reopen. Obviously, that happened as a child. For those of you who don't know, 3 Mile Island is the place where the nuclear reactor melted down, and it was one of the original meltdowns where all of the safety around it also failed, and that was a problem. Video games have been written around it.
Yep.
Movies have been written around it. People make jokes around it, and that tells you everything, right? That when we feel comfortable enough to restart something like that, I think that's very good. Making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches out of something that's really bad, right?
Absolutely.
And in that aspect, to me, we know that nuclear energy is very clean, and has been good for a while. And we know that we're not creating new refineries for oil. We just haven't got that on the. That's not what we're doing. And I think this might be the first of many out there. Um, when you look at the companies that produce nuclear energy, yeah, I think that this could be the next goalpost here for a while.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I'm extremely excited about it. As nuclear energy is one of the few green energies out there that we have that have actually proven to be able to be number one, accepted by the grid. It has a use case. It works. So, interesting. This is in Pennsylvania. For those that don't know, I just take it for granted as an old guy that everybody knows these things. But yeah, 3 Mile Island on the heels of Chernobyl, really changed the view on nuclear energy around the world, not just in the U.S., but more in the U.S. because we still see nuclear energy that's come on board and some of the, bright spots around Europe. So I'm excited for it. They partnered with Microsoft. It's gonna, basically what I heard is it cut about 8 to 10 years off the building because that's how long it takes to build a new one.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Is
Yeah.
they're gonna cut 8 to 10 years by doing this. The plant's going to generate about 800 megawatts. So, that's a lot of energy, and
Well,
Microsoft's
energy.
going to be the main buyer. So, what I'm telling you there is that's data center, data center, data center, data center. Because this is just following what crypto does, right? This is, Microsoft taking what some of, Mara and these guys have done following, energy around the western part of the U.S. to use flared methane for gas and all these things. This is a great use of energy. So interesting there. I did notice CEG was up really nicely on the news right now. Now up about 11.5%. It was up about 7 when I wrote my notes earlier this morning. So it's continuing to move up in the right direction, and I do think that is.
And I'll tell you, if anybody out there is really interested in this aspect of energy, for me, the one thing that makes that energy is plutonium and uranium, and that's Kamiko, CCJ. So, for me, I like buying the companies that make the picks and the axes, the shovels, as opposed to the actual producer. So, yeah, I like then the other one I think probably is Constellation Energy, CEG.
Yeah, that's the one that
Um,
they partnered with. That's the one that's
yeah,
up. Another one to look at, you can look at VST Vistra,
yeah.
is involved in this. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some good plays here. It's just moving nicely today. So that's that's been the good side. Most of the other stuff we've seen in stocks has been to the downside today. Did you see our man Warren raising more money? Sold off some more Bank of America stock.
I mean,
That's
he
down.
knows what's going on. He feels it. He understands it. I have seen it firsthand. The banking industry is really not doing well, and it's going to get worse. And I'll tell you, I mean, even though I'm seeing Bitcoin taking a little bit of a hit here, down to 63,000, I don't really know. I don't really know why the profit taking is hitting so hard on it. But I can tell you, last night I took my profit on Ethereum at around 25.40, and I moved it into Bitcoin because I don't feel like the banks are doing it either. I've said this a long time. I don't feel comfortable with the banking industry right now. Um,
So I can give you your answer on Bitcoin. Is on my report last week, I did a big, session on the fact that short-term holders were holding at about 63,250 at a loss. And they've been
mm,
holding that over the last three months or so. So we hit that spot. You ran right into the sell pressure of the hands that held on, that have been panicking for the last month or two, that they bought at that last raise up. So the short-term holder, which is the cohorts under 3 months, had been holding at about 63,000.
so they just round tripped it. What we call it in the markets, beaching it, right? They
Yeah,
just got back to where they were. They got scared. I love scared money. I've said this several
absolutely.
times on this show. When we saw Bitcoin drop to 52.5, as most of you know, I went out and and bought, and I didn't sell. I'm still long. I'm going to stay long. I look, if the banks, it, you want to tell me how the market's doing? You want to tell me how crypto is doing? For me, it's all about looking at M2. That's the money flow, and that right now is the highest we've seen. I think ever now at this point. I'm not really sure if that's it, but that to me, you can look it up. You can look it up on Fred. We have Fred actually to the M2 money. I can give you that link. But right now, I'm looking at July is $21 trillion of M2. It's just absolutely asinine how much money is in the markets right now,
Wow.
and that means that things that's really, if you want to boil it down, why of course we call it the velocity of money, how fast it gets out there, how fast it gets spent, how fast it gets returned back to the government. That's the velocity of money. Right now, this is at the highest ever. We're talking even COVID time. This is just asinine. And to me, that's why you're seeing the breakdown in the dollar. And that breakdown in the dollar is making other currencies worth more. And I think you mentioned this morning too, Howard, that other countries, their investors are buying our stuff, our companies.
Absolutely. I was reading an article in regards to Japan, the wind down of that carry trade that we've been talking about. And what we've seen is just a huge amount, and when I say huge amount, trillions of dollars rolling into foreign markets out of Japan. So that's still happening. It is boosting up not just us, but other markets. We're seeing that, as you mentioned, DXY bottom left of my screen there at about 100.652. So, we're seeing that, stay muted, very muted here, going back all, for the last couple of weeks. We that's been a change. So it's definitely going to change the way worldwide investors are looking. As we talk about that, because I saw how much bonds they were buying, I wanted to ask you a little bit. Is I saw an article discussing how the bond rates had tightened in the Magnificent Seven since the rates, and how that could affect how they raise money. I thought it'd be a great way if you could explain that a little more. I didn't quite follow all of it, but they were talking about how they raise money using these bonds, and that those rates have shrunk to one of the tightest areas that we've ever seen.
When the U.S. government bonds, which by the way, if anybody knows, that is the largest market in the world, not the stock market, not crypto, not. the U.S. bond market is the largest market. It's by trillions and trillions of dollars. I think it's like maybe $30 trillion more than the average. And so because of that, there's a lot of excess in that market. And so when they are moving money, like your mother-in-law
Yep.
is trying to move out of those things, they're looking for a little bit more of a, let's say, a return and a lot less. While there's going to be a little bit more risk involved because the company, it's not much. So what they know that money, the bank, these companies know that, hey, you know what? I know money's coming out. I know money's cheap, so I'll
Right.
borrow money, buy our stock, and lower our bonds because you know what? The U.S. government just lowered their bonds a lot more, and we can lower ours because we don't need to because they're going to come buy our muni bonds and our corporate bonds no matter what. So they have that ability right now, and that's that pricing ability makes it cheaper for companies to borrow money, right? They don't have to go to the bank to borrow money. They'll just borrow it right from what they call the directs and indirects. So why not? You know, now they got another pool of money that's just flying into them, and that could help companies with their R&D. And that's what I've been saying. If they're borrowing money for R&D, or they're borrowing money to produce a new iPhone or new technology, awesome. If they're borrowing money to cover the debt, but if they're borrowing money for stock buyback, which happens,
Right.
uh, then I'm not as a big of a fan of it. But it is what it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just the carry trade played out in a different way, right? They're using their own bonds and their money to do a carry trade there. So that is interesting. Another thing I have to tell you that sort of surprised me that I just saw come across Market Watch. You know, I take a look every day at the risk sentiment gauge that they provide from FactSet. And I had mentioned yesterday it shot up from 49 to 65. Right now it went back down to 35. And what's interesting is they figure that out off of the average of 6 future contracts relative to their own daily trading history. So they're looking at what are people doing in the future, not at what is happening today, but what's moving on those option contracts, future contracts coming out. So does that surprise you at all? Because it definitely caught me, but you know I am just Johnny Retail.
Uh, you know, I have no comment on that because, quite frankly, you know, when you look at the markets and you look at the volatility right now, it's very, very hard to understand the volatility right now that's happening. The volatility is just so much. Um, if it was just a two or three things, let's go, okay, just pinpoint it on this. But the malaise in the market really is based on so many factors right now, probably more than normal. And you're seeing that now. So to me, I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I ask you. A couple of things just in general bookkeeping here. No real economic data today, so that's another reason you got the quad witching to keep you busy enough and going crazy. But a little quiet on economic data. Next week, the things we'll be looking at on Monday, we have the Purchasing Manager Index from the S&P 500. So we'll be able to see are they spending money. Home price indexes, you know, I've been watching that one closely. In fact, I'm going to come back to home builders in a second with you. That's on Tuesday. Auto parts also on Tuesday. I know you watch the auto industry closely.
Yeah.
Big one is, well, two big ones. Thursday, we get the third estimate at the second quarter GDP. I do love that we get like 4 different iterations of it before they say, okay, now we really know what happened. But we have that on Thursday, and then PCE on Friday, which will have everybody. That is the Fed's favorite inflation gauge.
I mean, auto parts could be one to watch. I mean, you're seeing whether or not people are fixing their cars or are they moving into new cars. And we're not seeing that. We're seeing slowdowns in the auto industry. A good example of that would be VLKAY, which is Volkswagen. Volkswagen just cut how many are expected to cut 30,000 jobs. I'm pulling it up now. I think that they, oh my goodness, the news on this Volkswagen. So, a little while ago, they said they're denying the report about laying off 30,000, but they're cutting. So where there's smoke, there's fire.
Well,
I think.
yeah, I mentioned to you this morning. Mercedes. They got hit hard, about 8% down on their part of the stocks, European Stock Exchange. BMW, and that's where you and I still agree. I believe. China's not out of the woods. China's economy is, hitting more turmoil than ours is right now. And that's what they said. So that's what I'm still keeping an eye on personally, is to see this what happens out of China here. Let me just get.
Yeah, I mean, if for me, when you're looking at China, they're still making those moves, and being friendly with other countries. I see those doggies out there. That's good, Howard.
Yeah, I'm pulling
Uh,
over the Quasar platform here. Trading View seems to go down right at 9:20 on me every day. I'm gonna have to use a different service. It just crashes every single day at our same time.
Bitcoin now trying to get back over that 63,000 handle there. What is up with the 64,000 handle on Bitcoin? Is there a problem here with the wall?
I don't know. I just again I'm of the view that we're just not there yet. It's consolidation that happens before once the halvening comes, and before we actually see that demand really pick up again. Um, there's still regulatory hurdles that we're going through in the crypto industry that's keeping all of it down. It doesn't really relate too much to Bitcoin. But again, as you say in the stock market, I'm not scared. That's
Yeah,
what I'm looking at.
yeah, I'm not scared in this when any way, shape, form, or fashion. To be honest with you, I think the market. When you look at all-time highs, I expect some profit taking up here. I smile at profit takers because they just have those. But there's nothing wrong with taking a profit. It's one of my rules. Take profit when you can. There's nothing wrong with that. But right now, I've said this. I don't know. I can't tell you how many times that right now you're just fighting the machines, and the
Right.
machine. You're putting money into a bigger machine that's buying into a bigger machine that's buying into the biggest machine. So right now, I just wouldn't. I'm just seeing some reports that Israel has just carried out another attack. Um, it carried out a targeted strike in Beirut. We're hearing that explosions were heard in the city's southern suburbs. Um,
That could set off some fireworks here today.
that's probably why we're seeing a little bit of selling here on the algos. And look, if you want to know whether or not the computers are running things, the minute you saw that, bam, yeah, there's a little bit of a tumble there. So, yeah,
So, Steve, I have to ask you, with FedEx taking that drop today, are you a guy looking to buy that dip? Sometimes you are the dip buyer. Are you looking there at that, or are
I
you?
am. Yeah, no doubt about it. If you pull up a FedEx chart for me, I'm going to ask you to pull up a monthly chart.
Steve, I'm going to actually switch over to your screen, if that's
Yeah, okay, I'm
okay.
going to have to pull one up then. Give me a second
Sorry
here.
about
Oh,
that, buddy. My trading view is not kicking in here.
no problem. Yeah, I mean, I really think that I've been a huge dip buyers of a lot of things, including Nvidia. As you know, we
Right.
nailed that one. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to share a window, and I'm going to share this one. There we go. Hopefully, you can see that on the screens.
Yep. Give me 1 second to get
Yeah.
that in here for you.
And I'm going to pull up a monthly chart here on FedEx. When you get that up there, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see here on a monthly chart of FedEx. I'm gonna make it big enough so that everybody can see it, I think. But you can see where we were during COVID. And one of the things I said during COVID was that, look, these are the people who deliver. So there it is. Once the COVID sell off was done, look at that, straight up
Right.
from 124 to over 300. If you divide 300 by two, you got 150. Look
50.
at that.
Yeah.
Fibonacci. right in there. So Fibonacci sequence was correct. That came in 2022 when we had that big sell off. And then we've had this nice run all the way up. And this is the Fibonacci sequence right here that I talk about all the time. And guess where it's at? Right back in those numbers. So if I pull it up, you can see here, this is back all the way to 2018's high, February 2018. And you'll see that this is where the sell off happened, and we're just right back in these numbers, right back in the end of last year. We only got rid of a whole year. So
Right.
when we saw when we saw this dip, we saw the buying happen. When we saw this dip, we saw the buying happen. So yeah, I'm talking about the same exact thing here. That this is now. Am I buying it today? That's a very good question because FedEx was saying that the futures a little bit, the guidance was a little bit weak as well. So to me, that's not telling me that things are okay right now. So I'm not there yet with buying it, but I'm certainly watching it today. And look at 13% off from yesterday, that's pretty good. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good discount. You can't look away from that for sure. Steve, will you pull up Lennar while you're there?
Yeah, sure.
Because that's another one to me that sort of got hit today after decent earnings, after decent guidance. Um, you know, I just sort of don't fully. I'm not there with everybody, so I just thought maybe if we took a look at that, what you're thinking there.
So
Um,
I'll tell you exactly what I'm thinking. Lennar being the home builder. One thing that I think is happening, and I watched the report on this the other day, is that a lot of people that want to buy homes are not buying homes. Why? We get it. Interest rates. Interest rates are coming down. They're in their homes already. And so what they're doing is they're waiting it out, and they're waiting it out by renting. So what these home builders have done is they've gone out and built homes and are renting them now, right? They're renting these townhomes, they're renting things out because that's how they wanted to get through this downturn. Will those people buy their homes? Maybe. If they do, then okay, then there's a reason why you can continue to build. But if you're seeing that rates are coming down and people aren't buying it, they're just staying in their homes and they're not moving because the rates still aren't good enough that they got back during COVID,
right.
then you're going to have a housing crisis and they're just going to rent. Um, I know
I do
that.
wonder myself if we'll see too that part of that is that now that rates do start to come down, the advantage that they give the home builders, where they can play around with rates a little bit easier than others, if that disappears, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's a competition. The one thing that the United States, I think a lot of people don't really realize that yes, we're in a deficit. Yes, we're in debt, heavy debt. We say $33 trillion. That's a lot of money. But the United States has something that other countries just don't have, and in our case, our most valuable commodity on in this United States is land. We have a lot of land, and very good land. It's not covered in like deserts and ice and snow everywhere. We have a temperate zoned country. Um, just ask China and Russia. We're Siberia. You can't really can't build those Lennar and D.R. Horton homes there, right? I guess you could send some people there, but the truth of the matter is we have a very tepid area land that you can use, and they're building. They're building in the Southern
Right.
Belt, the
Yep.
Sun Belt, Arizona, Texas, Florida, away from the hurricanes, up northern parts, and more inland now. They're not building them on the beaches anymore, thankfully. And because of that, I think you're starting to see some people moving inland in that aspect. But no, I don't really see homes being bought up at just a quick pace right now. I think renters is really happening at probably better than I've ever seen with the rent,
Right.
and mainly because people who are renting are okay with renting. There's not the American dream anymore that they have to buy. So yeah. All right, markets are open right now.
There you
FedEx dropping
go.
about
And
13 quarter.
like you said, right at clockwork, trading view went back up for me.
Yeah.
So here we go. You don't have to share your screen anymore. I got you here again. QQQ making the move here, 482.85 as we get going.
FedEx
Let's
still
see what's
dropping
moving.
here, 359.15. I am keeping my eye pretty tight on this.
I will say, Steve, any thoughts on Nike? They changing their CEO, and now that is getting a little bit of love here today, up 7.5%.
Yeah, I mean Nike's fallen behind. They have they made major mistakes in the past. They were tied themselves to good old Michael Jordan, and those days are slowly drying up. And the new CEO just isn't able to do it, right? So yeah, no, you know what I'm doing right now, Howard. I am doing what I've said I probably might not do, but I am going to do it. So.
What are you buying?
I'm missing it here. I'm trying to buy FedEx fast enough here, and I'm missing the trade here. I think I'm missing the trade a little bit here, and
261, 260,
I
69.
I'm now in FedEx right around 260.50, I believe. I think that's where I got
Okay.
in. 260.75 is where I'm at. 261.15. I
There
went
you
pretty
go.
heavy here. At 261.36. We'll see what we get. I want to put with the trading as heavy as it is, Howard. I will be putting in a limit order here.
Okay.
Take that money and run a little bit. There's 261.19, so I'm gonna let's see what the big boys say on this one here. But yeah, and then I'm watching Bitcoin a little bit here again
Yeah,
too.
down
So
below 63. Get
yeah,
that up on the screen right there.
let's see if I can't hit 6 for 6 on FedEx today,
There
huh?
you go.
Okay, I'm going to put in an order at 262.50 to sell. Um, let's see if I get my order there done.
It's up above 261, moving in the right direction. Bitcoin, you can see I had marked yesterday when I did my afternoon show there, I had marked off that 63 area as the key spot to try to stay above today. Not doing so well so far. And the reason I pointed that out is
261.73, 262, 262.02. Can we get it? Came
got
close
right
there.
towards it, but it didn't get all the way. I get
We'll
it up on
see.
the screen for you here. I'll pull up the 3 minutes, going to be the way to look at it.
We really need to see the rest of the market coming up with it too, so that people can see.
Yeah, what I will point out though on Super Guppy is you've seen it went from the red, and that area there has gone to neutral white. So Steve might have
All
got
right,
this
so
right at
news
that
just came
spot.
in. First time buyers of homes made up 26% of August home sales. That's the all time low from November 2021. That's exactly what I've been saying, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because they're the people, people that have homes, like you said, they're not willing to step away from a 3% mortgage to move up
Uh,
to a 7% mortgage. So it's only going to be the new home owners that have been sitting on the sidelines, people that are renting, like you said, that are looking to get in.
FedEx making me a liar here.
It's still early there, Steven. It's only 9:34. Bitcoin still
Yeah,
can't
but
get
I think
back
that
above 63. Does look
I,
like QQQ SPY turning down here a little bit. And again, today we're seeing a little bit of that sell-off here, but again, the options people are gonna have to start covering. Shorts are gonna start covering if we see any move up. So I think that's the other play here, right? On a triple witching day, we would see that. Retail looking okay. Chinese
all right.
retail is still doing pretty strong. Another one sort of out of the blue here, moving up. CrowdStrike, another one that had gotten
I
hurt.
would be
Bad
calling about
news.
it. Yeah.
Moving up nicely here, up about 4.2, 4.3% in the early market hours.
Come on, FedEx, get back up there, baby.
Keeping an eye here. SMCI, another one you like, up about a point and a quarter here this morning. Walmart up almost a point. CEG now up 13.65. We were talking 13.77. We were talking about that this morning. Let me
CCJ, Kamiko, we talked about that with uranium, up now up 7% here.
Wow. That would make sense with that play. Take a look at my stock screener here, although this one was on extended hours. Let me turn it on to regular.
I just see gold's at record highs again. That's slipping a bit. I think, come on, CNBC, get together. All right, so yeah, we're still seeing silver here at $31. Oh, there goes FedEx. Yeah.
Scanner's given us a couple of jumpers so far this morning. Battalion Oil up 100 and some odd percent here, 122. It's actually holding its gain so far here. So this one.
I like FedEx here, so I have doubled down on my position here.
FedEx now at 258.65.
So I'll give you the number here in a second here.
Seeing Dell get hit here. A lot of yesterday's winners definitely profit taking. Dell, Dryden, Etsy, some of the bigger winners yesterday. Seeing GM, that's been a winner for a few days, taking a hit down. The one still moving up is GE Verona. This sucker just keeps on moving up. You know, the spinoff from GM. Definitely doing well there. Kroger up nicely today. About a point. A little over a point. MBLY Mobley, another one that had been up big yesterday, giving back about 2% here.
Yeah, we're seeing Nasdaq pushing here now a little bit, and yeah, we're seeing some little bit of buying going on.
Another one of the pumpers that we've been watching that's been a continual pumper, GLMD. Now remember, GLMD, the difference there was they got the huge investment from the Saudi fund that sort of pushed their stuff up. And now we're seeing it move up again, another 15% here today. So trying to move back up towards where it had hit on that news.
So I am in around 259.50 here, so I'm a dollar off, but I'm doubled down a bit. So
okay, 259.50. SPY now under a half a point in decrease. It had been over that, so it is starting to move up. So we do see a little bit of buying. Steve, what's the tick looking like?
Ticks down about wow, I just went off the chart there a little bit. Ticks down 400, but coming back up there.
Okay.
There was some serious selling there.
I would say a little doom and gloom that I did see across all of the stations today is more talk about the possibility of a downturn in that longshoreman strike. You know, if that happens, definitely would be bad. We know when we had threats, when we had one port closed down, back a couple of years ago, what it did. Do you see as something there? I mean, I know you've looked at during times like that, the freight liners. When rates go up for freight, does it get better for a company like, Maersk or, one of the other movers there? Or because of the fact that this is labor strife, does it not give you that opportunity that we saw back,
Labor strikes hurt everybody. I mean, that's just what you just have to, it doesn't matter who you are or where you are, it affects everybody, especially longshoremen. If you don't know what a longshoreman is, they're the ones who help bring those things out of the ocean into your homes.
Right. They unload the boats. They get the boats into shore. They unload them and then set them off into the containers. A huge part of that. That's what I figured. You had to mention them. Usually when you see the freight rates going up, you're quick to mention that. I thought that would be the.
And when freight rates go up, that means people are happy because they're buying things and things are moving. There's 259 back there on FedEx. Let's get up there, baby. Let's get out of this mess here that I've got myself into. No, Shoot. Yeah, let's go, baby.
259.21.
260 almost hit
260.
there.
There you go. Here comes a bump. Does have a little bit of resistance here at that stage. You can see on the 3-minute chart to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I thought it was a little overcooked there, oversold there for sure.
Take a look at the screener here. Let's see what's moving one way or the other. I gave you what was moving the most in the positive direction. Yeah, nothing. Constellation, the big winner so far. Constellation Energy up 15.27. As I said, GLMD moving in the right direction. I'm now up 22%. It was up 12 when we just talked about that. So some of these are getting a little bit of love. You see in the playoff of nuclear energy, nanonuclear, NNE up about 13.6 here based on that news also. So we are seeing a little bit there. Seeing a jump by Leafly here, LFLY. Take a look at that here. See, it really jumped up yesterday afternoon. It is giving back a decent amount here. We need to get above.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit more selling here in crypto here. Bitcoin getting another hit there.
Yeah, 62,700.
Tick's pushing up here now, flat on the day here, so we could see some more buyers stepping in. Wow, Bitcoin really getting smacked here.
Gold and silver moving up though. You just broke 26 on gold here, Steve. 2,600 we just hit.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, we talked about that as a psychological barrier. It crushed through that. Got up as high as 26.19 here before retracing.
And that tells you what people are thinking about the world.
Yeah, silver broke the 31 handle here. We nicely have seen WTI and Brent move up between 4 or 5% this week. Also, you had called for that, getting back above that 70 handle. WTI right about 71.80 here. Brent at about 73.68. So we are seeing that. VIX still tremendously low, 16.05. Very low for VIX here. Apple holding on. Affirm, AFRM, we talked about that yesterday, being a benefactor in the rates game because they give the buy now, pay later rates to people, up another 1.33% after it made a nice move up yesterday. So that has Amazon's turned negative. Well, trying to turn positive here, but Amazon.
Yeah, FedEx can't hold here, I don't think. There's the lows of the day now.
Oof. Steve, I saw, did you see Boeing? A lot of worries that if they can't raise some money, we could see them get into some actual serious issues. First time I'd ever heard that bandied around, but with their credit rating getting moved further and further into, that junk range, so to speak, I saw that they talked there. If there's not a cash infusion soon, we could see some problems there. Definitely was weighing on the price in the pre-market hours. It did take a nice jump back up here.
I mean, that's Boeing. I'm not worried about Boeing. They'll get their money. I think people are just, look, if that's Boeing's down 0.5% on the back of that news, I mean, that tells you everything. Yeah.
Right. No panic.
No panic.
I love it.
The U.S. government will give them money.
I was going to ask you that. I wasn't going to, I was going to say that they're too big to fail, right? Isn't that, one of those companies that are too big to fail? Tesla down about 1.27. Again, a lot of that a playoff effect of Mercedes cutting guidance in the Chinese market.
Bank of America cutting ratings now on lowering the target there on FedEx. Okay, Warren, hit him again. Sell some more.
That was the other thing. I forgot to mention that to you. What I had noticed is, in FedEx when I was looking here on TradingView this morning, is that the case was that most of them were giving still good ratings. I saw, most of the stuff was in the 320 to 340, and the analysts that have come out since the news. These weren't the old ones. Let me just see here on TradingView what I was looking at. But most of the analyst reports that I had seen were not bad. Yeah, you see, outperformed by Baird. Susquehanna moved. They lowered their price target, but to 330 from 345 to
Yeah, Susquehanna's been
256.
they've been a rant right lately.
Evercore, they have them coming in at 318. TD Cowen has them at 328. So I do have to say, again, analysts, 315 here from Wolf Research. Baird
I mean, I've
320.
lowered my entry, so I'm okay right now. I'm just gonna hold for a little bit. I think the selling is it's way overdone. 14% on FedEx is not worth that much.
Yeah.
The selling's a little too much. I think that again, zero DTEs, and they've been getting crushed lately. People are losing their behinds on them right now. Lately, we're seeing those numbers really, really, really bad lately.
Yeah, the
So
problem is a day like yesterday, they clean up and it just gets the euphoria back. Not that not that they're making money on a long-term P&L there, but you know what happened yesterday. Everything went up, no matter what you were. It wasn't hard to be a
yeah,
stock picker yesterday. So on days like that starts, and then everyone starts calling their brothers. They all start going. I noticed that all the social media. I'm not lying. I saw it all night. I actually didn't put two and two together until you just said that, but all my feeds on social media were people, oh, I made this today. Look at this. I did this, blah, blah, blah.
show me their accounts over time, and
Time,
I'll
right. Oh, yeah. But that, and then the idiots follow in, and what do they become? Exit liquidity for the big boys.
yeah, pretty much.
Nvidia, your little darling, moving up here, 118.19 now, back in the positive on the day. So we are starting to see things move to the green that matter, the Nvidias of the world. Amazon just went positive. So we are seeing now some money flow into the
All
Mag
right,
7 big
257.
boys.
Come on, FedEx, get back up there. Get back up there for me. All right, gold's still dropping here. 20. It's like 2603 now. Still
Hey,
dropping.
listen, I think if you ask Peter Thomas dropping to the 2600 level, he'd be
He's
happy to
pretty
hear you
happy.
say
He's
that.
pretty happy.
That's a good that's one of those good things. It's
Oh, listen.
uh,
Don't get me wrong. I
yeah. Oh, I
big
know.
fan of silver.
Just same thing with Bitcoin, where people start, saying, "Well, what happened was just at 64, it's down to 63." I'm like, "Yeah, if you were listening to me, you got it at 55 a few weeks ago. That's a pretty good move up in just a
We
few
did. We
weeks,
did. We did.
So
Yes.
don't get so angry. You got to play the market in front of you. Nothing goes up in a straight line. Even the most promising of stocks take a little breather here or there. They're healthy retracements.
Yeah. I mean, we had a
Yeah.
600-point run yesterday in the Dow, and now she's only down 86 points. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you got to take a breath. If you don't, that's where you run out of breath and everybody falls off the cliff. That's where the elevator loses the stair. They get off the stairs. They try to take the elevator because they get tired. Although the elevator's going straight down usually when that happens. So let's see what happens. I think it's going to be a battle today. I just think we're going to see choppiness. I don't think we might not pick a direction until like 2 o'clock until expiries start to hit.
That's when it happens. 2 o'clock. Yeah.
What
There you go.
could
257 there. We're getting good on back on FedEx. I'm happy again. So come on, baby. Let's run.
Lennar down almost 5%. This might be one I might take a look at later on here for more of a swing trade. I think there's a long time until we see the rates get to a point where people are going to want to sell houses that have 3% mortgages or lower. So I think the new home builders are still going to be in a spot of selling from a good spot.
Yeah. Well, they've had a heck of a run since COVID. I mean, it's not like they haven't seen their share of the money coming into them. So
And that's a great point. If you look here at Lennar, give me 1 second. I don't have that alphabetically because those are the ones for the just today's stuff. Yeah, I mean,
there is some weakness.
bottomed out here at 141 in beginning of July, and since July 1st, we've gone from 144 to 188. So again, And you can see what it's done. This is the third leg on this move up, right? If I blow up the daily chart here, we talk about the three legs. And you've got, that first leg, we came down, higher high, higher low, higher high. Can we stay with a higher low? So my key here is if we stay above 173.55 on Lennar, my thesis is still in play that we then come back up and challenge the top of that daily linear regression, keep that in play. So, for me personally, those are the things that I look at. I think Lennar does look like one that you could see what it does here over the next couple of days and get yourself a nice juicy entry here. So I'll be keeping my eyes there. Man, Constellation still going 16.25 now.
Yeah, we're starting to see some buyers here coming in a little bit
52-week
everywhere.
high there on Constellation Energy.
Ethereum dipping a bit, 25, 26 now. Yesterday, I moved a lot of that Ethereum into Bitcoin at 25.40. I know it got up a little higher than that later in the afternoon or later this morning, but I wanted to take some profit off that, and I moved it into Bitcoin because it's just lower. It's where I stack my sats, as everybody knows.
Yep, absolutely. The way to do it is to play off of those two.
The
So CEG is really in uncharted waters here. I was looking. I didn't realize that this was all-time highs too.
FedEx really tested that bottom down there at 256.
Let me pull that back up here.
So now we're back to 257 now. Tested it 2 or 3 times down there now. Maybe. There we go. Come on, baby. Let's get back up there. 257.5. Okay.
There you go. That's a nice little green wick there on the short-term chart. Starting to compress out on the guppy, which gives it a little bit more strength to get back up here towards that 350. You could look for it for a nice jump to 259.39 here as it closes in on those wider reaching EMAs, exponential moving averages. Nike 7.45, so sort of just holding steady here.
Dollar is pushing a little bit here, 100.83 right now.
Bitcoin trying to regain 63 for you, Steve.
Yeah. Stack those sats.
Absolutely. Close over 63 would be very, very bullish on Bitcoin. GLMD, we talked about it again earlier here, now up 38%. We started talking about that, it was at 833. SMMT is another pumper you got to keep an eye on when it's got a little bit of an increase this early in the morning. You could see this pump. Anything over 24 would be a spot where you could see Summit Therapeutics run. Those that have been keeping up with the pumpers that Charlie and I have been talking about on Tuesday afternoons know that that one has been playing really well over basically since Friday, September 6th. So 2 weeks worth of good movement. DoorDash up about 1.47. Gapped up yesterday, holding that gap. SPY now. Steve, do you think we see SPY close this gap here that it formed yesterday? Down towards that 563.
At some point, will. But right now, look, there's a lot of bullishness still in the market for some reason. And obviously that reason being the Fed.
Yeah.
But right now, cracks in the armor tell me that, yeah, we should come back and fill that gap at some point.
I was looking at it on the SPY and QQQ if we're going to fill those gaps this morning. I thought QQQ had a better chance to see a little bit of upward movement because it hadn't set a new all-time high yesterday, so there wasn't as much, euphoria that might turn around. Man, Bitcoin can't break that 63 here. Vic is starting to pick up a little bit here, 1628. What's the DXY doing? Give me 1 second here. DXY picking up a little bit too, 100.83. So that is slightly up from where we were earlier, about 0.2%. DJT. Today is a big day for DJT. Many know it is the day that the unlock happens. So that will be an interesting one to keep your eye on today. Does all hell break loose? It is down 6.6% here. And what that means is the insiders that got all the stock, Mr. Trump and his cohorts, they, starting today, can start to sell some of that stock. You think we see them sell it off today? I know he said he isn't, but
he says he's not. Bullshit. Look, I mean, we're already seeing it down 7%. The stock's at 1374. I mean, if you look at this stock, this thing was, when they first announced it, was, good Lord. I mean, it's been straight one way,
Yeah, it was $79 at one point.
I think that, I mean, God, this thing at one point was right up over 100, right? So to me, I think it's telling about the election as well.
Yeah.
That if he was winning the election, that the stock would be higher in the 40s where it was when they.
Well, you saw the spike. I mean, when Biden, ran into his issues here in April, it spiked, from 22 back up to 56. It doubled.
It's
so,
a reference.
Like you said, this is a proxy for the election, pretty much.
Correct. Yeah, and I don't.
What's interesting is, are they selling? I don't know if it's them, but looking down here at today's volume, 7.65 million shares, right? And they normally only do 2.75 billion shares. So that tells me there's a little bit of volume that's not normally there.
And we saw some of the new numbers from the percentages, and the betting markets or poly market and things like that are all saying the same thing, that this is Kamala's to lose now at this point. He's not a very popular human being. As I always say, votes don't vote, right? And I don't think he wins. I just don't think he wins, and I'm positioning my portfolio around the fact that he doesn't win.
Yeah, solar's been getting a lot of play there. We know LN, Lunar's been getting a lot of play. Fast solar, all of those EVs, all still in play. It's a little harder. As a trader, I think we like when, or at least a lot of traders, I should say, like when there's a change in the Oval Office, right? Because it gives you a little bit more of a wider playing field, because there is usually a change. So if Trump was coming, we'd be looking at oil stocks, we'd be looking at defense, we'd be looking at some other things there that you might not look at with the Democrats in charge. I
would challenge that by saying that most market makers, MMs, don't like change. They like to see the same, so they know what they don't want to move their money, and they don't like that. But in this case, we're seeing the Peter Thiels on one side, and you're seeing the Ray Dalios on the other side.
Yeah,
they're lining up. So I don't, the big money, I'm just kind of leaving alone. I don't really care what they're thinking. All right, we're seeing the Nasdaq. Just markets seem to be a little bit muted this morning here. It's okay. We needed it from yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, normally on a witching day, you see a huge amount of volume in that first half hour, about 34 million, which is not uncommon. That's right about normal for QQQ. So you're not seeing, like you said, one there. Trying to find.
The CEO, Alex Karp of Palantir, sold $325 million worth of Palantir. Oof.
Well, with that jump up again, there are certain times that I don't, what's the word I'm looking at? I don't judge a CEO, blame someone, when they move up that quickly, so to speak, I think you kind of have to. If you don't, we're not following the advice we're giving others, right?
That's right.
So that's
FedEx has tested that 256 now about 4 or 5 times now.
yeah, it's trying. It hasn't so far been able to get over it, but it is definitely trying.
256. Bitcoin 62.8 now. We gotta see that bounce a little bit harder here. Nasdaq continuing to sell off here a little bit. If you want to know exactly what the home builders are doing, one of the commodities you definitely should be following is Dr. Copper. Copper is one thing that I definitely keep my eye on because
Oh,
one thing that every household has, and that is an air conditioner, and copper is needed for it. And one thing that a house has is they have electric wire in their house. One thing that a house has is all copper, right? So
okay.
copper, copper,
I
copper.
never knew that one. Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
Let's see what we've got going into. It's 10 o'clock here. I'm going to take us out in a second. Steve,
Yeah.
we'll take one last look at your FedEx here before we go. 256.06. You scared yet?
Nope. I'm not
I knew
scared.
that answer. I knew that answer. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that today. This afternoon, I do have my crypto report coming on. We're going to take a look at what is going on in Bitcoin as it makes its move back up. I did hit pretty much on the head the levels last week, so tune in. We're going to talk a little bit more about Bitcoin. We're going to talk more about Ethereum because it has been trailing. I'm going to talk to a little bit about why the regulatory world is causing that, and as a little bit of a sneak peek there to give Steve a little insight, see what he thinks on that. Part of the problem with Ethereum is while it has sort of cleared that hurdle of being a security, the dApps and the other things that work on it, remember, Ethereum I always compare to the Apple Store. It's the place that everybody goes to get their dApps, which are the decentralized apps. Those decentralized apps have no clarity yet. We need that clarity till you see total value lock really go in there, the money being stored there that was in DeFi, and our next rung up. So, Steve, those are the things I'll be looking at today. What do you think about that?
DeFi is the world I think that we're going to. So yeah, I agree with you, and I am very appreciative of the fact that we have the president of the American Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Association uh, helming the Quasar Markets Live.
I got to remember to send you something, Steve. DC FinTech Week's coming up at the end of October. Saw the headliners there. You got CFTC Bernstein speaking. I'm going to an event at the International Spy Museum. He's speaking. Giancarlo. They've got like the three last CFTC heads in there. We've got Caitlin Long from Custodia. Want to find out what's going on in the banking world there. So should be really exciting. I might have to try to get you to get up to DC and
I
meet
might
you
have
for
to
that
come. I
one.
might have to come up and hang with you, Howard.
Yeah, so we'll talk more on that one. Steve, I'm sure I'm going to try to get you on later this afternoon for an end of the week look at the markets for Stephen Big Beat, or you've got your man Hondo here. We'll see you a little later. Thank you, folks.